G'day guys, it's Ben again, here to bring you another video. Today we're going to do a review on the Windlass Steelcraft Seax. Alrighty, that's this one right here. I bought this probably a good year ago and I got a bunch of them. I use them mostly as a camp knife. They're not really designed, I don't believe they're really designed as a fighting knife. I think that's some absolutely are used as a fighting knife, but I don't think the design lends itself remarkably well as a fighting knife. And some became very long. Let's look at some of the stats now. So a Seax is a single bladed knife, and as you can see, the profile is much like this. Okay, so you have the sharp end is this one. They varied from roughly 3 inches, which is about 7.5 centimeters, out to 28 inches, which is just under a meter. As I say, they're predominantly a utilitarian knife. So you could fight with it, and it would depend upon your fighting style. It's much more of a stabbing weapon really than a slashing weapon, and the swords at the time tended to lend themselves much more to slashing, because chainmail wasn't as common in the earlier parts. So we're now talking sort of 6th, 7th, 8th and earlier parts of the 9th centuries. By about the late 8th and 9th centuries, you would have seen the professional soldiers in chainmail, but chainmail was a phenomenally expensive sort of item. It would have taken, days, maybe even weeks to make a full sort of mail suit. So people wouldn't have had simply that kind of access, and therefore people relied on thick padded clothing, like a gambazin, for instance, as their primary sort of armour. So this particular knife is 19 inches long, which is 47 centimeters. That's the overall length. It's 13 inches for the blade, which is 32 centimeters, and it weighs 1 pound, which is roughly 600 grams. That's 3 millimeters thick. I like this. I really do. I really like this weapon. I use it all the time as my sort of camp knife. I cut wood with it. I certainly in some of the cases we've used them for sort of setting up tents and crafting sort of wooden stakes and poles and stuff. So they're really functional, they're really useful. It's incredibly well made. This is actually based on a true Seax that you can find in the British Museum. Unfortunately, I looked really hard on their website and I couldn't find an actual image of the one that I have personally seen during my last visit to London, but it's definitely worth a look. And if you can find it, can you drop me a link in the comments below? One of the things that you'll notice here, the handle, obviously a single-handed handle, and you've got these brass studs. You have the pommel's really nice. These would have been common throughout the different cultures at the time, so not just the Angles and Saxons, but also the Vikings and so on as well. And you can see, there have been finds with Viking, if you like, swords which were much longer, as I said, out to about a meter. But this is definitely a really good utilitarian knife, and if I was living in the period, I'd make sure I had both an axe and a Seax on me the whole time. They're not that heavy at all, as I said, 600 grams, very easy to manipulate the blade, really good, very easy to use, very comfortable to hold. I like these brass pieces here in the handle, because the studs really give you that extra sort of sense of control when it's cold and when it's wet, and you don't, obviously in that sort of instance, you don't want to be losing your blade. It is supplied as a dull blade. That said, because of the pointy end, it's not suitable, I don't believe, for reenactment, because if you're going to be stabbing someone, then that point can do just as much damage, sharp or blunt. But other than that, the only thing I didn't really like about it was the sheath. It's very plain, it's very simple. It's good quality leather, but I would have thought it would come with some kind of decoration Other than that, that's what it is. It's a simple. It is a very sort of simple, very functional knife. These tend to sell. I think it's a pretty fair price, out to around about $100 or so when I bought mine last year sometime. And as I say, I do have a bunch of them which I use within my group quite frequently. I think they have gone up a little bit now, but that said, for such a well-made item, the price is well and truly justified. And the finish on the blade, I think, is really good. I really like it. So I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. Okay guys, I really hope you got something out of today's video. Please like, subscribe and share. I'll catch you in my next video.